Hello, trading is closed on February 4th, 2021. We'll start with our disclaimer. This is my call for tomorrow, February 5th, 2021. No guarantee I'm right, so trade at your own risk. MEJT system is pretty accurate, but my other stuff isn't as accurate. So just remember I can be completely wrong. Trade at your own risk. My email is mejt.trades@gmail.com. Had a few calls. We looked for the pattern with the early today was the early high, and tomorrow has the early low. We got that. We said yesterday's pattern was quite negative, and all we had to do to confirm a top was to get follow through. We said just trade under the close from yesterday, and that should be the end of it. I said I couldn't rule out gapping up and killing the pattern, but that wasn't what I was expecting. Well, expecting it or not, we gapped up and killed the idea before the open. I make lots of calls which are canceled, as I've said many times. I miss lots of moves. I just don't make many calls that are wrong. Cancel calls don't cost me any money. In the afternoon, MEJT called for higher prices, and they've already printed. Well, we had this delightful pattern, this cup upsloping handle, stopping at all this resistance. Only thing that would kill it would be to gap up and promptly take out the high a day, we said, and that is what we did. We've now rallied an incredible 1,680 handles from the March low. It's quite a rally. You could probably make some kind of justification for a top anywhere along the way. Here's the justification for a top now. I'm not saying that's it, just if that happens, I can explain it. We called this as the high back there. It's now off by a point or two. If that's just a point or two, I don't really care. You can have what's called a 2B top if this is rejected immediately. This would be the nominal top, and that would be the actual top. It doesn't change any of the analysis. If we're going to keep railing up, then that didn't work. We have both positive and negative things from this chart. Here's the low of the day in the first bar, high of day in the last. It's a positive pattern. Almost always it leads to follow through the next day. Don't forget though that tomorrow's open can substitute for today's close. So if this gets rejected, it doesn't count. And we do have a wall into the close. A lot of times that's not a real move. The wall into the close is often met by gapping down. It only works half the time though when you're at a new all-time high. 50-50, you may as well flip a coin. We do have a hole in the wall gap though. These always fill. Usually they fill within a day, undercutting this low, or by Monday's open at the latest. But that's not always. And if it doesn't fill by the open on Monday, it could take months or longer till it fills. But just as this target should print at some point, that low should fill at some point. Because this isn't a stable base to continue going up. But again, if we don't fill it fast, it doesn't have to fill anytime soon. Mixed signals again. Tomorrow's pattern has early low. Doesn't mean you won't gap up. Usually it's a bullish day with a final hour high. Early weakness is usually followed by more weakness in days to come, even if you rally the rest of the day. The employment report comes out tomorrow. Often it moves the market strongly. I don't try to predict that. I don't think predicting what happens with a news event is very wise policy. Shorter term is positive. We had the low of the day in the first bar and the high of the day in the last. Usually at least a follow through, but it's negative. We had the wall into the close and the hole in the wall gap. Mixed signal rules apply. Short term's kind of tough for me, but the long term isn't. We have a new all-time high, major divergence in breadth. We have far fewer stocks in positive patterns at this high than we had at the last one. Same thing goes for secondary indicators. They're not confirming the high. Sentiment's been at ominous levels for 3 months. It isn't a pinpoint indicator, but it can't last forever. We have these wild swings both in the market and individual stocks. They're all signs of a market top. The best guess I have, and I'm underlining the word guess, is if we do go higher from here, it won't be much higher either in terms of price or time. I don't see how we're going to make it through to the end of the month. And frankly, if we had a negative response to the employment report tomorrow, I could justify this holding. But that's kind of tough to predict. Once it's clear, I think there should be a long way down, but until it's clear, it tends to keep one's powder dry. Tomorrow has the early low. It's normally bullish, but if there's a negative response to the employment report, if at any time we start down with authority and take out prior lows, it still has a long way down to satisfy lower targets. I'm still suspicious here, but it's tough to call the exact high. This is one number that works. It's not the only one. And that's today's call.